Vlogpose here with my third vlog on Future Diary. Okay, yeah, so I watched the third episode, and there were parts of it that were very filler-ish if I didn't know the story, because Yuki and Yuno are just at the amusement park. And I don't really understand the whole purpose of what Fourth was thinking of just sending the kids to the amusement park. It was some kind of bait for Ninth, but it really made no sense. They were just hanging out at the amusement park having fun, and Ninth was kind of doing her own thing. So you kind of had a few different side stories going on here. But when it comes to Yuki and Yuno, it was just the amusement park. Now, it was really adorable, actually. It just seemed like a harmless date. They were at the amusement park, even though Yuki didn't want to be there. She gets a drink and she puts the straws together to... That was cute. You had the haunted house, which I think Yuno did that on purpose, because that way she can be close to her man, and maybe being that close, Yuki would start to be like, oh, yeah, I kind of like that. I don't know. But I just thought it was kind of interesting on how scared Yuno was there, which really goes against her personality, and I think even Yuki caught onto that because, she is acting kind of human right now and not psychotic. So that was interesting. That was different. Meanwhile, you have Ninth, and she's trying to escape because naturally she blew up a school in the last episode, and she's been on the run. The cops are looking for her, and it was kind of interesting on how the episode did it. You had it from Ninth's perspective at one point. It's raining as she's watching kind of a checkpoint. Cops are checking all the cars. Okay, cool. Ninth's not in there. You can go on. And I'm seeing it's raining, and Yuki and Yuno are walking in the background as Ninth is watching this whole thing. And then later on, we're back at the amusement park, and then when they leave the amusement park and it starts raining, so you kind of see it from their perspective. Now, while I'm on the subject of the amusement park, they go into like a pool, like a lazy river kind of pool or whatever, and of course you have to have the fan service, because what is anime without the fan service? Okay, so yeah. Her top doesn't quite fit, and it immediately gets washed downstream, and so she's covering herself up. Which, you know that it's anime. It's going to happen. You got to have some kind of moment like that in anime. That's whatever. But there was a part where she's covering herself up, and you have people going down and just kind of going by, and I noticed there was a guy, and he just kind of casually goes past too, which, now, I understand that, wait, no, okay, let me put it this way. Before even, no matter how old somebody is, until you realize that they are probably too young, if a guy sees a girl that's not wearing a top, they're going to look. At least even for a second, because they're like, wait, what? And then, oh, okay, never mind. But most guys, if they see a topless girl, even before they realize that she's too young, even if they do realize that she's too young, it's going to catch your eye. But he just went on by, completely ignoring the whole thing, which, I don't know, maybe I'm just nitpicking the scene a little too much. I don't know. That scene just stuck out to me for some reason. Just, you have a naked girl and a guy completely ignores it. I mean, that's like against guy psychology there. And then, okay, naturally she gets somebody bumps into her and she gets pushed into Yuki, and so they're basically hugging. Naturally, Yuno doesn't want Yuki to go anywhere because she'll be exposed, which was actually pretty hilarious when she gets her top back and Yuki's just kind of floating down the river like a dead fish. I love it. That was great. That was one of my favorite parts of that episode. At least as far as the comedy is concerned. Now, as far as the actual drama of the episode, you got some The third episode's got some major, like, game-changing plot twist things that happen. Okay, so let's go back to Ninth for a second. Ninth is saying, okay, cool, so I sneak down this alley here, or turn right, and there's no cops there, I'm safe. Okay, cool. And then it immediately changes. And so she has to run away, and there's a couple cops there, and you think, well, that was quick. And then you see a mysterious figure walking behind the cops, which, when I first saw that, I didn't think anything of it, but you think, only the diaries change like that when another diary user's involved. So that kind of tells you whoever this mysterious guy is probably one of the diary users. Now, naturally, Ninth at that time didn't know that. Later on, she's still hiding. She's got to change of clothes now. Naturally, her eye is still in agonizing pain, understandably, from getting it stabbed in the eye with a dart. That kind of hurts. But this mysterious guy walks back up to her later and says, don't make any sudden moves or any sudden sounds. And kind of sounds like maybe those two are going to team up, possibly. At least that was my initial thoughts. And so she's hanging out. She wakes up and she's in some cabin in the middle of nowhere. And this mysterious man has a bread bag over his head. I mean, it literally just says bread. It's kind of funny. I love that. But she's looking at her phone like, huh, well, okay, I guess I'm safe here. There's no changes in the diary. Until you realize that she was hypnotized this whole time. Because she's like, hey, what'd you put in those pills? And he's like, oh, you're gonna wake up. 3, 2, 1, snap. You're awake. She realizes that her phone is just a piece of wood. And she looks up, and he's not wearing the bread mask anymore. He's wearing a giant eyeball mask. And he says, so, what do you know about the other diary users? And that made her realize, I am screwed. That is another diary user. And it turns out, well, maybe they're still working together. It's always possible at this point. It's too early in the story to know for sure if they were working together or not. We know that first, second, and fourth are working together. And so we've met 5, and we have a 6th member. We don't know his number yet, but we have 6 diary users. So we have seen half of them, even though one of them we don't know their number yet. Okay. Now here is the major thing that happens. Okay, so it's raining. Yeah, Yuki and Yuno, they had their cute little date. Oh yeah, I forgot about the planetarium. That was the part that was really emotional and really sealed this whole adorable teenage date thing or whatever they were on, where she wanted to go to the planetarium and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. And so they were discussing that in this Ferris wheel of like, why don't you want to go in the planetarium? You love that stuff. And he's like, how do you know? Well, it turns out that they had a flashback to a year ago. They were in class, and that's actually how they met, was in this class. And they were struggling to fill out the survey of like, what do you want to be when you grow up, or how do you see your future self, or whatever. And they started talking about how he wanted to see the planetarium with his parents, and unfortunately his parents got a divorce recently, and so he's like, well, my dream's never going to happen. I'm never going to be able to see the stars with my parents. And so she was kind of filling him in on things like, oh, well, you and I can go. And he's like, yeah, it's not the same. And now she writes, it's supposed to be hers, I'm assuming, where it says become Amino's bride. But it looks like that she bends down on his desk and writes it onto his paper. So I don't know if that's just some random, I don't know if that's a plot hole, or maybe she put her paper down, she's writing it, but I didn't see that. So it literally looked like that on his own paper that he's going to be his own bride, which makes no sense, but I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking again. Or maybe that is a plot hole or a continuity error or something. I don't know. So yeah, you get a little bit of the backstory. You get to see on how they met, and you get to learn a little bit about Yuki's parents, divorce, you also know about the planetarium thing, and he just got a telescope. So anyway, fast forward to present day. They're on their way home, and Yuno shows Yuki her house, and it's a pretty nice looking, older looking Japanese home, and got like a big fenced or gate or whatever you want to call that thing. The picture is there, and she's like, "Oh, well, you don't have to leave yet. You can come on in." He's like, "Yeah, sure." So he's in there hanging out, drying off, and strangely, the power doesn't work. She's like, "Yeah, we're kind of off the grid for a little bit." And there's just a random apple on the table, and she brings in a candle, and so she picks up the apple and goes in the kitchen to start peeling the apple, and he's like, "I gotta pee." So he's using his diary as a light, and naturally the diary is saying, "Oh yeah, there's a bathroom at the end of the hallway." But he also notices, "Oh, there's a strange room on the right." Okay, no big deal. And he thought, well, the diary doesn't say I go through this door, so why don't I change the future a little bit? Which, oh man, doing that one thing. Okay. So he opens up that door, and everybody's phone just goes all staticky and everything, like a whole change in the future, to the point where even Deus's chamber's like rumbling and there's lightning and everything, and he's like, "You've done it. You have done the unthinkable." Which, okay, it's a major thing what happens when he goes through that door. I can't say completely what it is. All you see is that when he opens up that door, there are scratches all over, there's blood splattered everywhere, somebody's written help, and there's some skeletons there. I mean, talk about literal skeletons in the closet. And Yuno's like, "Why'd you have to open that door? We could have been so happy together." Which, understandably, he runs out of there as soon as he can, which I think anybody would when you open up a door behind some crazy girl's closet and there are dead bodies in there. Yep, you better believe I'm running out of there. So he's running home, closes the door behind him, and he's just ducking down by the door. And then you have one of the creepiest scenes that I've seen yet in this show, in the first 3 episodes, where she peeks open the mail slot and she says, "Good night, Yuki. I'll see you in your dreams." And just crazy eye. Oh man. But just that scene of him opening that closet and just skeletons on the floor, or I'm going to call it a closet, but that room with the skeletons there, just the fact that it changed everything. Not only did it change it changed everybody's future. Even people that we haven't even seen yet, all their phones just go wild. Like, okay, something happened, and as Deus said, it was the unthinkable. He did the unthinkable. Now, that early in the series, you're like, what did he do? What did he see? What did Yuno do? It was... these are some answers that, like, you're not going to get for most of the series, and they introduce it that early in the show. It's pretty insane. And so that is how the 3rd episode ends, pretty much, is just with that. And it's definitely one of the scenes that stood out to me the most. For one, you have the skeletons in the closet, and of course Yuno's eye in the mail slot. Those 2 scenes just those scenes just those 2 scenes made that episode. I mean, you get the whole side story with Ninth and mystery eyeball guy, which is pretty intense in itself. But the whole Yuki Yuno intensity thing, and you almost forget for a second that she might be a little bit crazy with the whole adorable date thing, and then you open up that door and you realize there's a whole side of Yuno that we haven't seen yet. And we're probably too afraid to find out what that is. Which kind of makes me wonder, pink-haired girls in anime, why are they crazy? I mean, Yuno's the best example of that, but Think about some of the other crazy pink-haired girls in anime that, like, well, there's a pink-haired girl in pretty much every anime series. Like, you have Nurse Joy, for example, in Pokemon, which she's happy to see you wind up in the hospital. That's not crazy at all. Or think about Sakura from Naruto, and well, she's got anger issues more than anything, but she can be a little bit crazy in her own weird way. I know there was that girl from Akame ga Kill that, but she's kind of like a Sakura, I guess, where she's just crazy. She's more tsundere, I guess. She's definitely a tsundere character. So it's kind of the opposite of, crazy in a different sense. Although that show has her own psychotic character, which I love that character. So I want to talk about that series at some point because that's a great series. I really enjoyed that series. Although I guess you don't have to have pink hair to be crazy. Look at Misa from Death Note. She's a little crazy. And some of the characters in... yeah, so what are some of the crazy pink-haired girls that you know in an anime? Comment those in the comments below. Let's get a conversation going about crazy pink-haired girls in anime. Let's talk about Yuno's weird discovery behind the closet. Spoiler-free for those that haven't seen it yet. But let's talk about that. There was... it started off very fillerish, but as this episode went on, there was so much unpacked in this episode, and one of the major turning points of the series introduced this early in the series. I'm excited to watch the next episode, so why don't I go do that, and I will get back to you in another vlog. But until then, this has been Vlogpose, talking about Future Diary, and hope to see you in the next episode. I forgot to talk about the murmur segment at the end. I just realized. That one didn't really talk about the story at all. It was mostly Murmur asking Yuki on how to be popular, which is kind of strange to ask Yuki of all people on how to be popular. I mean, you got the social outcast that looks at his phone 24 hours a day. Not exactly Mr. Popular, but it was kind of adorable. He says, "Oh, well, why don't you just be cute?" Which that made her just cry in the corner. It's like, no. Don't cry, Murmur. It's okay. And he's like, "Oh, well, why don't you learn how to cook? That makes people like you." And she's like, "Yeah, okay, here's corn." Well, that's not really that hard to do. "Okay, well, here's steamed corn and fried corn and dried corn and cooked corn." And she's got like a bunch of corn on the table, and he's like, "Well, that's not really it's not really any different. That's still not doing the effort of cooking." Which, I think there is an episode later on in the series where we learn that she's actually a really bad cook or something. So maybe it's a good thing that it's only corn, which apparently the corn was safe. I mean, Yuki did take a bite of the corn and he was fine. And then he's like, "Well, why don't you just try being kind to people?" And she's like, "What's kind? I've heard of it." And he's like, "Yeah, just make somebody a snack, even though they didn't ask for it. Just a nice gesture for somebody." And so then Deus is looking down at his armrest, and there's a little tray with some corn and rice, and he's like, "I didn't order a snack, or did I?" I love a lot of the interaction between Deus and Murmur. It's just some of the... It's like a father-daughter, like a father and a little daughter thing. It's so adorable, but it's so comedic because Deus is like, like the Lord of Time and Space, is like, "Did I order that snack? I don't remember." It's just, oh, it's so great. Yeah, so that was the Murmur thing at the end, and my thoughts on that is it was. Those are always fun. Those are some of the funniest parts of the whole episode. It's just the interactions with Murmur, because we don't see her a lot in the actual series. I mean, we saw her in one scene in this episode when the whole time-space thing was going on and she was freaking out that the whole universe was shaking. That was her only moment in that actual episode. So it was nice to get a little bit more screen time of her and Deus at the end, because Deus is a really interesting character too. So I like that they were able to show a little bit more of his character in that segment too. So yeah, anyway, I told you guys that we're going to move on to the 4th episode, and that's what we're going to do, so I'm going to call it quits now, because I've been talking for about 20 minutes at least. on a 20-minute episode. So yeah, I'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye.